The Alternative Corner, where we will follow topics of interest other than boxing. At October Red, we always want to engage with our listeners and accommodate what our viewers want to listen to. Feedback is essential. Feel free to tell us yours. Enjoy episode 6, where we discuss British actor Micheal Ward, who is currently going through the UK judicial system for allegations of serious sexual offences.
Hey, good evening, good afternoon, good night, good morning, wherever you are. And it's Abs of October Red, and today we are back with the Alternative Corner. This is kind of episode 1 because it's a new person that we're talking about, we're going to discuss. But the actual episode number, I will look at what that is after I upload the video, and that will be in the description. So a warm welcome back to you guys. Today we're going to be talking about another actor that I admire that's unfortunately got himself into a little bit of hot water, or somebody's intentionally, maliciously put him into hot water. Because remember guys, you are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, and that's part of having a democracy in the UK. But without further ado, we're going to get into this. It's about Micheal Ward, a very good actor. I know him for being in Top Boy, but he's been in several other TV series, videos, music. You know, he's well known. Fantastic actor, played a brilliant big brother in Top Boy, the one that was trying to claim that spot, but in the same time having that moral code of trying to look after his younger brother and keep his younger brother, who was the bright, intelligent one, out of drama. Brilliant, loved it, fantastic. But all isn't sunshine and roses, you know how it goes. So in this video we're going to break down charges. This is important. Charges against actor Micheal Ward. Explain the meaning of what he's been charged for, and look at the wider consequences of such serious allegations. And we're going to end with a crucial bill that's currently in Parliament that could change how suspects are named in the future. It's all imperative, it's all important, and it all fits in with what's going on social media at the moment as well. So we'll start off then. Micheal Ward, the charges. In July 2025, British actor Micheal Ward was charged with 2 counts of rape, 2 counts of assault by penetration, and 1 count of sexual assault. These charges relate to one complainant, and the alleged incident happened in January 2023. Now you have to remember, in the UK we don't get copies. Like America, you can get copies of the whole court case, etc., and go through it with a fine-tooth comb. We don't have that here. It's protected because it's actually with the judicial system, and that is important. But what I want to do is break down exactly what the offence is that he's been charged with. So he would have been arrested, interviewed and charged. That's where we are in this process of the law. But I want to break down to you what these offences mean. So all of them come under the Sexual Offences Act 2003. You can Google that if you want. Rape is defined as penetration, and this will be slightly vulgar, guys. So if you're eating your breakfast or you get easily offended, just mute this because it's not for you. But I will get into detail, and that detail you may find sexually explicit. But I want you to understand what these offences are and what the implications that they could have. Right, so rape is defined as penetration with a man's private parts, yeah, without consent. Maximum sentence is life in prison. Assault by penetration involves a penetration with a body part or object without consent. Maximum sentence, life imprisonment. Sexual assault covers intentional sexual touching without the consent and can carry imprisonment or community penalties. such as service. These are some of the most serious criminal charges under English law, with sentences measured in decades if convicted. Now, it's important that you guys understand that rape can only be committed by a man. I'm not sure how it works with trans, if they wasn't born with a male part. I'm not sure on that. I'm not sure if the law's been updated. Could be something that I need to look into, because only at this time, only a man can commit rape. Okay? Assault by penetration can be both male and female, because it says involves penetration with a body part or object without consent. Those both carry life imprisonment. But you have to understand that assault by penetration and rape, even though they're similar, they are worlds apart. Because once you get your name attached to rape, obviously you know what the consequences are. So we'll look at the court timeline then. Initially, Micheal appeared at Thames Magistrate Court on August the 28th and was granted conditional bail. Conditional bail is where you get let out, you don't go to prison, but you've got certain things that you can't do. And I'm going to make the presumption it's to contact the witness in any way or get somebody else to contact the witness. So no contact with that victim or with any witnesses to do with the case. Because if you breach that, guess what? They can come and knock your door and they can keep you on remand until you go back to the courts again. So stringent conditions put into place to protect the victim and or any witnesses. Now you have to remember, once again, the victim is protected under anonymity. So we will not know who that victim is unless they decide to speak out. That is law. And we're going to come on to a bit more detail in that in a bit. So we look at the case has moved to Snaresbrook Crown Court, because initial case magistrates, but it's now been moved to Snaresbrook Crown Court, where on October the 17th, and this is why I'm putting this out because it's October the 18th now, yeah? His legal team indicated an intention to apply to dismiss the charges. Very key. So they have obviously gone away. He's got his solicitors. They've gone away. Obviously, they know who the victim is. They're doing their own due diligence. Now, rape is down to consent. Yeah. Did you have consent to have intercourse? Now, you can give initial consent, but as the act goes on, you might think, as a woman, by the way, you might think, I don't want this to happen anymore. Stop. As soon as a woman says stop, you are supposed to stop. Because the consequence of that, if she makes a complaint, you can get in trouble for the offence itself. Because the act becomes non-consensual when the female says no more. Or in assault by penetration, it could be a man that says no more. Okay? So it's a case of consent. Also, it's a case of, were these people in a committed relationship, or were they in some sort of relationship where it was consensual? Have certain things been done? Say, for example, if you're text messaging somebody, you're having a to and a fro, and the message is a little bit, saucy, spicy, whatever word you want to put to it. I'm trying to make this as YouTube friendly as I can. Use your imagination. So that shows a potential intentional consent from both parties that something's going to happen consensual between both parties. So it speaks volumes. What I'm getting at is it speaks volumes that his legal team or the defence have indicated an intention to apply to dismiss the charges. Now that means, are they going to put a foot forward and say she's lying? Are they going to put a foot forward saying we've got evidence to the contrary to prove that they were in a consensual sexual relationship. Very, very telling. Obviously, we don't know what that is, but the next key date is December the 5th, when an application will be heard or formal pleas entered. So the application, the defence are now going through their evidence, going through the evidence that the prosecution has given to them, and they're looking to basically counteract that by saying it's totally untrue and this is why. So that application is going to be heard, okay? And if it is agreed, or the evidence is compelling enough, there's a potential that the case could be thrown out of court. Yeah. They will have a certain criteria, and the criteria is on the balance of probabilities. Is this case likely to secure a conviction? And if they think that it isn't, they won't put it to court, okay? Because it costs money to go to court. And the prosecution are essentially paying for the defendant to go to court. So that's why they look at it. Are we going to get a conviction out of this? Are we going to send this guy to prison? If not, it's potentially not worth going all the way. So that's why they put in the application. Yeah. If they're saying that potentially formal pleas are going to be entered, if there's an application to dismiss, I'm going to make the assumption that Michael's plea is going to be not guilty. So a lot of things will happen. They'll have to obviously discuss the case, decide what they're going to do with it. There could be a potential another hearing. But if they just don't outright believe him, they'll just say no, trial. And it will go to trial. And that's when people have to give evidence, etc. Hope that makes sense. It's very techy, but I hope that makes sense. A conviction then, when we look at the consequences, because there's all stages to any process, a conviction on these charges would likely mean, as we said, the maximum is life, a long prison sentence, mandatory placement on the sex offenders register, and permanent restrictions on personal and professional life. Rape is a serious allegation. Mandatory placement on the sex offenders register, that's it. You're on there now. So certain jobs, you're just not going to get. A lot of people, if they see that type of crime or that type of mark on your name, you ain't getting a job. Put it that way. Permanent restrictions on personal and professional life. So his acting career, gone. But there's also another reality, and this is what I want to touch on. Even before trial, the public release of a suspect's name can end careers, ruin reputation and lives after permanently. Let's go into it some more. And I'm going to look at, because I have to look at both sides, because I like to be fair. If somebody has committed that heinous, disgraceful offence, yes, of course, throw away the key. Because to take power and control over somebody without their consent is a monstrosity of a crime. Okay? But there's also another side, and this is what I want to talk about. The impacts of false allegations. While the vast majority of sexual offences complaints are made honestly, or they call it in the eyes of the law good faith, false allegations, though statistically rare, can destroy someone's life even without a conviction. Public naming leads to suspension or loss of employment, harassment and reputational damage, family and mental health consequences, and in some cases lifetime stigmas, even after acquittal. I'm talking about false allegations here. And that's why presumptions of innocence isn't just a legal phrase, it's protection. Okay? And that is why we say in this country, you are innocent until proven guilty. However, you and I both know As soon as someone is charged, it goes out in the newspapers. Well, they don't even have to be charged. My gosh, we spoke about Noel Clark. He's been arrested. He hasn't been charged with anything. We don't even know if anything's going to come of it, but it's out in the newspapers. So already you're thinking, oh, what's he done? Not, oh, I wonder if he's innocent. What has he done? Now, I'm not saying that anyone's innocent, but I'm also not saying that anyone's guilty. Like I said, I'm sat in the middle and I look at both sides. But there's been something that's come up in the law. I like to keep my eye on laws, and this one I think is in good timing, especially with what's going on in social media. There's October 2024, so it's quite old actually. There's a member of parliament called Christopher Chope, I think that's how you pronounce his name, presented the Anonymity of Suspects Bill. Now in Parliament, there's a process, there's a huge process that you have to go through before something becomes law. It starts off as a bill, an idea, it's debated, there's different coloured papers it's got to go on. It always starts in the House of Commons, which is the MPs. They discuss it, they review it, they look at it, they add any changes, and then they debate on it. Then they look at it again, then they agree. Then once that's done, it's got to go over to the House of Lords. Now the House of Lords, we've got people in there with expertise on law, etc, etc. They will then review it. They can add changes. They can delay the law coming out, but they can't throw it away. Once it's been agreed in the House of Commons, it goes into the Lords. They look at it. Like I said, they can make changes, they can potentially delay it, but they can't stop it from going through before it gets to the final stage where the King stamps it and said that is now a law. So this is at the very, very early stages, and this is going back to 2024. So at this stage, it's a bill. Okay. So this proposed law aims to make it a criminal offence to disclose the identity of a suspect under investigation before they are charged or convicted. So basically, there's no more newspaper publishing on such and such being arrested. There's no more newspaper publishing on such and such being charged, in this case Micheal Ward. So there's nothing. There could be speculation, but it's illegal to put his name out there until he's actually found guilty in the courts of law. Now, why this makes sense and why this is possibly going through, and I'll put the key points, I'll go through the key points in a bit. As soon as your name's out there, you are presumed guilty. Okay? Yes, there is a safety aspect, and some would argue that it's in the public interest that we need to know that this person is potentially dangerous. But it's potentially dangerous. We've got a court system and a justice system for a reason. Because sometimes, guys, you can be arrested and charged and even in some case convicted for something you haven't done. Yeah? I'm not disputing that. But they're saying to have a more fairer society, we've got anonymity for witnesses and victims. Yeah, we can have that for victims, for life. All we're saying is we want to give suspects anonymity until they're convicted, until they've been proven in the British court of law that they're guilty. Okay? But like I said, there's arguments around it. This is why this has been going on for such a long time. It's not an actual law yet. They're still looking at it because of these implications. And one of those is they'll believe it's in the public interest to let people know that this person has got a suspicion around them. And when you're thinking about serious offences, you're thinking about safety of others. I'm not sure if this bill would get passed, but I do understand why they're trying to put it forward, like the pros for it, but there's also a downside, especially if, even if the person hasn't been proven guilty, they are in fact guilty, they are in fact dangerous. It's out there, it's for argument, it's for debates. I'd love to hear what you guys think of this in the comments, to be fair. So key points of the bill: it would be illegal to publish or share any information likely to identify a suspect while they're under investigation. There are exceptions. For example, if disclosure is necessary for preventing or detecting crime, it's required by a court order, or like I said, it's in the public interest that you know what this person has potentially done, like I said, innocent until proven guilty. Individuals who break the law could face up to 6 months in prison or a fine if they breach this potential Anonymity Act for suspects. Corporate bodies like media organisations can also be held liable. They'll probably get fines. Yeah. It's interesting that it's popped up now. Like I said, it's been around for 2024. We're going into 2026, and it just shows how complex this bill is to try and get through Parliament, because they've got to be looking at all of these different scenarios. However, they've put a caveat. They said, look, if it's preventing or detecting crime, so in other words, there's potential, outstanding people who are involved in it, they want more witnesses to come forward, that could be okay to disclose. It's required by a court order. Something's put in place that you can't have any restrictions because, say, for example, this person is a public figure. Hence what happened with, obviously, Noel Clarke and his libel case, or in the public interest, which is another argument. Is this offence that serious that the public needs to be made aware of it, even though that person hasn't been convicted of it yet? These are the arguments, and they'll be going to and fro in Parliament. It's already been going on for a year, even though it's probably took a backseat because there's more pressing issues at the moment, but it's still open. You can actually have a look. You can go onto Bills of Parliament, it's a website, and you can have a look at stuff that they're trying to put through at the moment. Very interesting. If you like me and you like reading, there's some eye-opening stuff on there that they're trying to push through. Because if you guys don't know what laws they're trying to make in your country, you're a citizen of this country, you should be allowed to have a say, and you can actually get involved in what decisions are made for your country. We do live in a democracy, right? So pros and cons, you know me. The pros, it protects innocent people from reputational damage during investigations. Yeah, innocent people, I may add. It prevents trial by media before the trial by jury. Do you know how hard it is to pick a jury to say that they've been totally impartial, that they've not read anything on social media, so they can provide a balanced and fair judgment on the evidence that is put to them? A prime example was the P. Diddy trial in America. They took ages to choose their jury because there were people that were potentially linked to him, people that have read everything that's on social media. They can't provide a fair and balanced view if they've been influenced by what's happening in the media, outside influences. So this bill is to kind of protect that from happening. So you only look at the evidence, you're not taking things from outside. So it reduces the risk of public harassment and online abuse, and it encourages a fairer judicial process. The cons, though, it could limit press freedom and public scrutiny in cases where naming suspects is in the public interest. Say, for example, if someone's like a serial offender, yeah, it will protect them rather than protect the public, and this is going to be the argument. It might delay victims or witnesses from coming forward if they recognise a suspect from public reporting, and it could give more control to institutions over what information is released. Now, for example, if it's a politician, if it's somebody that's potentially classed as above the law, is that actually protection? I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. My Instagram's already been sort of moving a bit mad because of certain things that I've spoke about on there, so do the maths yourself. So when I look at this case with Micheal Ward, because that's what we're discussing today, how it relates to the Micheal Ward case. So Micheal Ward's name was released at the point of charge, not conviction. He's nowhere near that yet. And if he does get to that as well, by the way, that means regardless of outcome, his reputation has already been publicly tied to the allegations. Under the Anonymity of Suspects Bill, this kind of identification could have been prohibited until after conviction or a court-approved disclosure. Yeah? For someone ultimately cleared of wrongdoings, this could mean avoiding irreversible public damage. Because once it's out there, isn't it? For society, it raises a bigger question. Should justice be transparent at all times, or should anonymity protect suspects until guilt is proven? That's the question, isn't it? So this is why this case is more about, it's more about than just one person, isn't it? It's about how we balance justice, media freedom, and the presumption of innocence in the UK. The December the 5th hearing will be pivotal in Micheal Ward's legal journey. And we here, the Alternative Corner, will be here to bring you factual, verified updates. So with that, I need you guys to let me know what you think about this. Hopefully you understand it and it wasn't too much legal jargon. Like I said, all of this information is public information because that's where I've got my sources from. You can check and see what bills are going through Parliament to be made law. Some of them are quite interesting. Like I said, I'll leave your amazing eyes to go and have a look at what's going on with that at the moment. But it is interesting to get involved, or at least to be informed in what's going on in our country. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It was just a quick one, but I've gone on for 25 minutes. It was the Alternative Corner. I will be following this story with Micheal Ward. It is interesting that his team have put forward, or are going to put forward, a case to dismiss it. December the 5th, hopefully we'll have another update. We will be following it. Speaking of following, I hope you guys are subscribed to the channel, sharing the content and all of the good stuff. I will catch up with you soon. It is approaching fight week, so we're going to be back on boxing next week. We're going to throw some more in about the Noel Clark libel case that's already completed as well. We're going to keep updating you and giving you the details from that. All of this is available on the Alternative Corner playlist. I'm Abs of October Red. I've got to shout out my sponsors, SA UK, Maximum Security, Minimum Fuss. Until the next time, ladies and gentlemen, with my growling, hungry stomach, stay ready.
Thank you for listening to The Alternative Corner. Most of our listeners have not yet subscribed. We kindly ask you for your support by subscribing to our channel and to share our content. October Red is sponsored by SA UK, Maximum Security, Minimum Fuss.